Just let me check if we have all of our outlets on.
Let me
just
close
one
my
moment.
start. Of course.
Yes. Okay, guys, we are live right now. Hi. Hi, guys. Let us know that everything is fine, that you can see us and you can hear us. And I'll just start all of our transmissions. Hi, guys. This is the special one for those of you who asked us for some English speaking presentations. This one is especially for you. Just sit back and relax because we have some more knowledge and some more experience to give to you. So great stuff coming in the next hour. Because we have with us Cecilia López Arteaga. She is with our great sponsor, which is NextView. We are very happy to have such a professional with us. She is a Salesforce service designer at NextView Consulting. She has a strong background in consumer research, both qualitative and quantitative, for a wide array of industries. She has an extensive experience at client-facing roles, managing projects from start to finish, and translating business needs to ad hoc solutions. Furthermore, she helps teams solve problems, make decisions faster, and collaborate better through workshop facilitation. And as you can see today, she will be presenting about why workshops are more effective than meetings. Sounds very interesting. Cecilia, we are very happy to have you here with us during Salesforce Summit 2023. Great to have you here. So I will be leaving you with our viewers in just a second, but please just let me remind you guys that we have some Q&A session afterwards. So be sure to stay with us during the whole presentation and leave your questions in the comments, because I will be reading them to our speaker once she is done with her presentation. So once again, Cecilia, great to have you here. Hello.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for that introduction. First of all, let me start saying that it's my honor to be here, have the opportunity to talk to you today about a topic that I'm very passionate about. And as I was introduced, I'm a part of NextView Consulting. We have a design-led approach for Salesforce implementation and consulting, and we help our customers to create value focused especially on customer centricity. We help them digitize their processes and optimize their business, and we help them also bring their data to life. A little bit more about NextView towards the end of our presentation. But today, I'm going to talk to you about something very different from Salesforce. Maybe you have been hearing a lot of presentations about Salesforce. Today, I'm going to bring you into a bit of a different perspective. What you will learn today with me is, number one, what is facilitation and why do you need it to collaborate better? Number two, why you should replace at least some meetings with workshops. 3, I'm going to share with you a simple framework to design your own workshops. And I'm also going to tell you a little bit about how we use workshops at NextView and facilitation, of course. Main message of this presentation is everyone can learn the skills of facilitation. You can become a facilitator. And I'm going to tell you why you should care, at least to explore the topic and just think about it. Remember that there will be a quiz at the end, so pay attention. If you like, if you can make notes and have fun. Let's get started. Why do we even need facilitation, and what is this woman talking about? Okay, so which here of you actually like attending meetings? And I cannot actually watch your reactions right now, but I've asked this question before in groups, and I know what to expect. There's not a lot of hands up. Who here feels that they have super productive meetings very frequently? Same case. I expect you not to be a lot of you who feel this way. And there's a reason why. Collaboration is kind of broken. And probably you say, okay, that's a bold statement. What do you mean? Collaboration is kind of broken because meetings are kind of broken. I'm going to explain to you what I mean. First, I'm going to spam you with some statistics and some research. Apologies in advance, this is a little bit US-centric, but I think we can, here in Europe, we can relate a lot to these statistics. 65% of senior managers said that meetings keep them from completing their own work. That's a bold statement. 71% of senior managers said that meetings are unproductive and inefficient. And probably among us, some of us feel in a similar way. There's a study that says unnecessary meetings are 100 million mistake at big companies. And in this particular research, big companies are defined with 5,000 employees or more. And in this study, they tracked that employees spend about 18 hours per week on average in meetings, and that going to non-critical meetings is wasting about $25,000 per employee annually. That's kind of a lot of money, don't you think? You can do some other things with that money. You've probably seen this as well. This was tweeted by Google, and this is a calendar invite where you obviously see the people who are actually joining the meeting, but there's an addition there next to their name. You also can see their hourly rate. So you can actually see here in the middle the aggregated cost of the meeting. Obviously, Google is trying to say, okay, send an email instead. However, I have even a better alternative, which I will share with you in a bit. But I think this is very insightful. So remember that a 1 hour meeting is not a 1 hour meeting, is, for example, in this case, a 5 hour meeting, because it actually means that it's the cost of everyone attending. Now, a little bit more now from the point of view of the employees. 58% of Americans would rather go to a doctor's appointment than a work meeting. Of course, I mean, this is ridiculous, right? 25% would rather sit in traffic than go to a work meeting. And 70% of workers would be more willing to attend a meeting if food was served. And I mean, I can relate to this. I think many of you can too. But yeah, I mean, come on, this is just a lot of signals of a problem that is a little bit bigger. So many companies, what we are seeing this, and not only the statistics, but also, I mean, we see it in our daily life, right? Many companies all around the world, they have groups of people that get together to work, but that struggle because they really don't know how to collaborate. Okay, so what's the problem with collaboration? What is so wrong with collaboration? This book actually has a very nice quote that summarizes in a very good way the problems with collaboration. It's called The Facilitator's Guide to Participatory Decision Making, and I'm bringing you a few of these the insights, so you don't necessarily have to read it, only if you like. First, they say that most individuals working in groups do not necessarily always know how to solve tough problems. Next, they also state that in these groups working together, we really struggle to build a shared framework of understanding of how we should work together. And obviously, we as humans, it's very natural that we dread and actively avoid conflict, confrontation, and discomfort. And I mean, this is very relatable, right? Yet, by avoiding to integrate everyone else's perspective, each other's perspective, we are actually diminishing our own potential as a group to be effective. We need a facilitator. In other words, we don't know how to work in groups. And you know what? That's actually, that actually makes sense. That's kind of natural because companies obviously aim to invite and recruit and hire the most talented, the most brilliant people, smart people, which it's true that these people, the people in companies are smart and talented. However, you know, when you join a company, nobody really teaches you how to work with each other and how, you know, organization, the culture of that organization redirects the way in which people work together at this place. So they just sort of they hire you and they put you together in a room, and then they just say like, okay, go do your thing. Yeah, this is going to be tricky. So that's the point of facilitation. A facilitator is someone who understands the group dynamics and can bring a group through a step-by-step process towards a specific solution. So teams can greatly benefit of having someone in the team supporting the team, or from an external, you know, party or from another team whose job it is to do this, instead of having valuable time spent on arguing, on politics, on not knowing how to get things done, on feeling frustrated or being, you know, caught in this endless, you know, roundabout discussion that seems to go nowhere. Teams can benefit from having a facilitator. There are three main problems that a facilitator can help you solve. Let's take a look. Number one, we just saw in the slide with the Google invite. Meetings waste a lot of time and money. Bringing people together has an actual cost and that can be quantified. Furthermore, unproductive meetings that can feel, you know, for employees like a waste of time, negatively impact morale. So you feel a little bit less motivated. People tend to like less going to work. And often you are caught in an endless loop of meetings because one meeting is generating another meeting, and that's spawning another meeting and another, and so on. And somehow you are like, what are we even doing in this cycle of meetings? Now, on the other hand, a facilitator can help your team save time and money by having shorter meetings and less meetings, so both, because they focus really on the outcomes of each session. So each session has a very specific purpose, and therefore you can really reduce the time that you spend in meetings and having also less collaborative sessions. Now, number two, companies are not always getting the best out of their employees. We mentioned earlier, companies want to hire the talented people, and these talented people are spending valuable time figuring out how they are supposed to work together instead of focusing on the things that they're actually paid to do. Whether it's someone is a designer or an accountant or a developer, instead of focusing on their area of expertise, they're actually wasting time trying to figure out, okay, how do we do this together as a team? And another thing is that often the ideas that end up moving forward as a result of getting together come from people who have the loudest voice, who have the most outspoken personality, or who are better at articulating the ideas. And that doesn't mean that these ideas are bad, but it means that we are just staying with those ideas that are louder and not listening to everyone else. So there's some solutions that we're going to discuss about this later on. But a facilitator is removing this weight from the group of figuring out how the group dynamics should work and how to work together. So people can actually focus on their area of expertise, whether it's design, whether it's finance, whether it's whatever. And the team can share all their knowledge in a structured and efficient way. And then people can also see in a better way the knowledge of others and not stay only within their own area of expertise. And number three, people often lack ownership over the solutions they are working on. We just mentioned, often the loudest ideas are the ones that are passing on through a funnel from ideation to realization, right? Through reality. So people often lack the space to share their ideas. So there's not always a chance for everyone to equally share what they want to contribute. So if people are not actively involved or have this feeling of ownership or agency on the solutions that they're working on, they're naturally going to feel a lot less motivated to be working actively on those things. So, it's a lot more fun and exciting when you have more skin in the game, so to speak, on the solutions that you're working on, because they're yours, they're partially yours. So a facilitator creates an environment in which everyone has an equal opportunity to voice their opinions, where everyone feels comfortable participating, and the ideas can be shared in an equal way. So people then have more ownership over the solutions because there's a higher chance that your ideas will turn part of the solution. So a facilitator can help in doing that. Now, you're probably wondering, do we need facilitation in every meeting? Obviously not. But you can ask yourself 3 questions to decide whether you need it or not. First, is it a group of 3 or more people? A facilitator is not a mediator. So a facilitator is not someone who solves people's problems. It's someone who takes a group through a process towards a specific outcome. So probably you want a group bigger than 3 people. I know 2 is technically group, but you definitely don't want to end up in a situation where it's not about mediation, it's about facilitation. So if a group is larger than 3, then okay, then yes, the first filter is passed. Number 2, is there an important or complex issue that needs to be addressed? You can ask a little bit further questions like, okay, how long has the team been stuck in this? How important is it for the organization? Do we actually find a solution to this challenge, or we start, working on it? So obviously, you're not gonna call in a facilitator for choosing what coffee maker to go with for the company and things like that. You want it to be, worth your while. So you want it to be a more complex and pressing issue. And number 3, does the whole team need to be sort of bought into the outcome of a session? You have these sometimes you have two scenarios. On the one hand, you have meetings or situations where only one person needs to be convinced or needs to buy into the outcome of that session, probably then you don't need a facilitator. But if everyone in the team needs to buy into the outcome of that session, then it's a good idea to have a facilitator. What are examples of these? So common types of sessions that sort of tick these three boxes that where having a facilitator can add actually a lot of value. So we have team building, decision making, problem solving, strategic planning, project kickoff or kickstart, prioritizing solutions, ideas, as well as validating solutions, ideas, products, onboarding a new team, actually, so also for internal activities, and offsite strategy retreats. I have a few examples of some of these, how we use it at NextView. For example, we run workshops to scope our clients' challenges. Sometimes we do that also before the actual project starts to really make sure that our proposed approach for a project, for a client challenge, is actually really, comprehending everything that's important. We do a lot of scoping workshops. So when we are within a project, then we really want to go deep into the assessing the current situation and really understanding all the challenges in their business processes and in their usage of, obviously, of Salesforce and other systems, or maybe the lack of usage of Salesforce. We also have a lot of exploratory sessions, again, where we not necessarily want to solve a specific problem. We just want to do user research, so to speak, or research about business processes and really understand how they work before we go into solutions, into the solution space or into the solution ideation. We also have a lot of co-creation sessions, of course. Then when we have a very clear understanding about the challenge, then we say, okay, how can we solve this challenge together? And we always like to do that with them. Project retrospectives, because we work using the Scrum methodology. So then this is part of the rituals. Validation sessions, when we have a product demo or we want feedback from users or from the business, of course, as well. And we also do internal strategy sessions. So how can a team, improve their proposition, or how can it be, positioned in the company or towards a specific customer? And we also do it frequently to onboard new team members, new people in the company. And I don't know if you noticed, but these cool venues in the pictures that I just showed you, these are our design thinking centers. So we actually have a very nice venues. Actually, these are our offices, both in Amsterdam and in Eindhoven, and that have specific workshop areas. As you can see, people are standing, and there's a lot of whiteboards, and there's a lot of materials that they can use. So it can be actually really playful and fun also too. Sometimes I'm working, for example, with a workshop with Lego, and I'm thinking, oh, this is my job. This is actually pretty cool. I'm solving a problem, but doing it in a fun way. So that's another advantage of using workshops. Now, where can we get a facilitator? Anyone can. As I told you in the beginning, you can learn to be a facilitator. Anyone can learn these skills. And these are the kind of skills that anyone really can pick up. So people with any professional background, it doesn't matter if you are a designer or if you are a developer or whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyone can really understand how group dynamics work and take a team through a step-by-step process. And because it's so structured, that means that people can actually learn this. Also, any kind of personality type. So you would think maybe, oh, that's easy for you to say because you look like an extrovert. Well, actually, everyone can. Even introverts can be actually very effective facilitators. It doesn't really have to do anything with personality type. The only thing maybe is that you probably want to have, you want to like it, you want to get energy from it. So if you really, really don't like it, of course, don't do it, but don't let your personality be, or a prejudice about it to be like a barrier to not even try. And also people from any level in the organization, because like I said earlier, the point is to take a team through a process. So anyone can do that. It can be someone within the team, but you can also invite someone external. And actually that can be also a very good idea because they don't have any sort of, skin in the game or any sort of bias towards a specific outcome. So that can also be very helpful. Now, a very quick roadmap to become a facilitator. So a beginner, you want to start with shorter workshops, and we have two dimensions. So you want to work both on your workshop design skills and on your facilitation skills. So your facilitation is actually how you want to run the session, and the workshop design is what kind of activities are you going to do this step-by-step process to take the group through, towards a specific outcome. So in terms of workshop design, you want to start with shorter sessions and maybe practice with well-known recipes. Well, the design sprint here, like for this example, is actually not that short. It's a whole week long, but it can be broken down in sessions. So you can, for example, offer to say, okay, Monday morning, I can support with that block of time. And in terms of facilitation skills, you really want to learn how to start managing the group's energy, how to understand a little bit more of group dynamics. And of course, I'm going to tell you a little bit of theory as well. An intermediate facilitator is now not only mastering well-known recipes, but they are able to adapt them. So you can take something that is very well known, and then you can say, okay, how can I adapt this recipe to make it specific for a team with a specific need or a different need? And you can also start designing your own custom workshop. So maybe you can start also inventing your own exercises and playing a little bit with that. And in terms of facilitation skills, you want to be comfortable in both in-person and online sessions. So that's also another dimension, especially very popular through the pandemic. And probably you want to work with co-facilitators if you have larger groups. And finally, a more advanced facilitator is able to design any kind of workshop for any kind of purpose or organization. So you really can invent your exercises and can even improvise in real time and just course correct on the spot if needed. And of course, you can even facilitate workshops with larger groups. I've seen sometimes one facilitator running a workshop with, a very large room with, 100 people, with everyone sitting at tables. So you have these sort of breakout table groups, and there's just the facilitator is just, at the front with the microphone, and everyone is doing exactly what they say. So it's even possible to do that. This is a very quick summary, but obviously there's a lot more to it. It's just a quick roadmap if you are interested. Now, you've also heard me not only talk about facilitation, but I've also mentioned a lot the topic of workshops. What is this whole thing about? So I'm going to tell you why workshops are so powerful. Workshops allow teams to, 1, visualize conversations, and 2, make decisions based on the data that is visualized around them through a structured process. So I've been telling you in all the previous chapter how facilitators take a group in a step-by-step structured process towards a specific outcome. So that process and that step-by-step hand-holding is actually what we can also call a workshop. Let me explain the magic of workshops. I'm going to go a little bit back to the problem space that we have with meetings. We have 3 main problems. The first one is information overload. I'm going to explain. The second one is having unstandardized notes. And the third one is having bias. Let's deep dive into the first one. There is too much information to keep track of. In a regular meeting, it's very, very hard to keep track of the high volumes of information generated and exchanged during meetings. You can do this experiment that has nothing to do with meetings, but ask your partner or your roommate or whoever to dictate to you, like, okay, do some groceries. Okay, you're gonna pick up milk, eggs, bread, bananas. You're good, but when you hit around 7, you're like, wait, let me write this down. You can't hold that much information in your head for a long period of time. So maybe some of you can, but in general, that's really challenging to do. Obviously, a grocery list is not even near as complex as the kind of information we generate and exchange during work collaborative sessions. So imagine all the presentations you see, all the data, all the stats, there's a lot of information. It's just too much to keep track of. Now, workshops allow the group to focus on one thing at a time. So obviously you want to have a wide array of topics during a collaborative session. You want to tackle many, many things. So workshops help you establish them in a very logical and structured order so that the people can really focus on one thing at a time. And the facilitator can guide the group in that desired logical structure. Also, in workshops, discussions are sequenced. So this has obviously a lot to do with the previously mentioned problem. So the facilitator is actually telling who speaks and for how long. There is a specific flow of topics, like we said. So when there's, for example, the questions, is this the right moment to have this conversation? A facilitator can actually intervene and sort of cut a discussion that might derail the group. Or will we get to it later? Or is it completely out of scope? So facilitator can help the group sort of not get out of the most important things that need to be discussed. So that is very helpful to have in a workshop, a very clear sequence of how discussions should happen. Also, in workshops, discussions are time boxed. That means that in every exercise and every activity during a workshop has a specific amount of time set. And it's very common to use these visual timers. This one is from a brand called the Time Timer. It's actually was originally used in schools for exams and stuff like that. But it's very helpful to see, okay, we have 45 minutes for this assignment, and you can visually see when the time is running out. So you can also, as a participant, in the group, you can also manage a little bit how you work, and you are producing the ideas or doing whatever the exercise is about. So this also helps to make sure the workshop gets actually complete, because in normal meetings, you have often a very ambitious agenda, but then at the end, you only hit the 2 first points or the first 3, and then you didn't really get through everything. And if you time box everything, all the topics that you need to look at, then it really avoids getting stuck into one topic. You just move on, and the facilitator helps you do that. Now, number 2, we mentioned earlier the second problem was the unstandardized note taking. So in meetings, everyone takes their own notes. So, back in the 60s, maybe there was like a person, typing the minute of the meeting with the conclusions of everyone, but now that's that's actually not the case anymore. So some people have their notes on their phone, some on, handwritten on their notebook. So it's very, very hard to then share all of these insights in the same space. And also people take notes in their own way. Sometimes you cannot even read everyone else's handwriting. So it's really challenging to sort of consolidate all the knowledge and all the ideas into a single space that is always available to everyone. And workshops actually offer a standardized system for capturing information. This is the reason why in many workshops you use sticky notes, because usually they tell you, the facilitator tells you, okay, write one idea or one thought or one whatever per sticky note. The restriction of the size forces participants to be concise, so you cannot write a whole essay, but also it needs to be also not one word. You maybe want it to be a concise sentence. And also you have very handy applications like having color coding, meaning different topics or different sentiments. So that is one reason, if you're wondering, why sticky notes are actually used in a lot of workshops. So there are many ways. So sticky notes are obviously not the only way to capture information. Earlier, I showed you, for example, you can, this picture from our team, that this is a specific methodology called Lego Serious Play. And yes, this is Legos. And yes, that's how people express their ideas and share it with the group. And you can also have sketches, storyboards. I mean, I don't know. It really depends on whatever you are working on. But the point here is that it's a standardized way of capturing this information. Furthermore, all the relevant data is easily legible and scannable at all times during the session. This is why we use whiteboards, because everyone can see everything that we are generating, whether it's physical or virtual. For example, here we have a screenshot of Miro, the online digital whiteboard, as an example. So it doesn't really matter. The point is to have everything accessible at all times for the group. And 3, we said there's a problem with bias. So, and we've actually touched this topic before. We say that not everyone has the chance of being heard during a meeting. Usually there are people who have dominant, loud voices, and those are the ones that are heard most often. And sometimes also there's other kinds of bias, besides gender or what have you. There's also your place in the food chain, so to speak, in the hierarchy, can also influence the course of decisions and discussions. So let's see how workshops tackle this part. So workshops aim to neutralize or at least reduce bias of all kinds in a group. So we have certain rules and principles to allow that every idea can have the same opportunity and weight in front of everyone to at least to be heard, in order to influence decisions and outcomes of the workshop. The principle I'm talking about, the rule, is what we call we work alone together, or sometimes you will also find it as we work together alone, doesn't matter. And I put this image of these children doing an exam, because it's not as stressful, but it's similar in the sense that we are all in the same space, whether physical or virtual, at the same time. However, there will be moments during the workshop in which we will be asked to work individually and in silence first. So ideas are generated first individually to reduce idea contamination, groupthink, group biases, what have you, and then ideas are shared, usually in a whiteboard and in some kind of space. So all the ideas are actually have the same likelihood to be at least listened to or read. Also, ideas are anonymized. In a workshop, it rarely matters who said what or who generated which idea. That is why we ask participants, don't put your name on your stickies. So it doesn't really matter. It only matters that you put it out there and that everyone else can actually scan all the ideas in the room, whether it's a sticky note or not. And I know some of you are going to tell me, yeah, but I can recognize some of my colleagues' handwritings, of course. But when you have so many stickies, you don't think that, and because you also have, remember, a timer. So you just have to really focus on the content, not on who is saying what. And furthermore, workshops should always end with clear next steps and responsibilities assigned. And remember, meetings actually not always end up, sometimes you run out of time because you were too busy on bullet number 2 on the agenda, and you really didn't get to a decision or to clear next actionable steps or tasks aside. So that's also a problem. And that is why in workshops, we always want to have a decision as part of the outcome. So there's always a decider. So the role of the decider is someone who can, for example, break a tie or have the last say in specific moments, specific discussions. Without a decider, maybe your actionable steps at the end might be not necessarily reached. So you also run the risk of having a bit of a chaotic session. And the decider does not necessarily need to override everything that the group did together in the group. Sometimes it's just about steering slightly into a specific direction just to allow the team to continue moving forward. So it's very important. The decider does not necessarily need to be, it's not related to the hierarchy in the organization, it's related to the role of having the ability of steering the group into a certain direction when and if needed. Now, probably you are wondering, how can I design a workshop for my team? And that is why I'm going to share with you a very simple framework to design your own workshops. And before designing a workshop, you have to make sure you have a clear understanding of the following things. Number 1, what is the actual goal of your workshop? Of course, you want to know that. What problem are we trying to solve? What should be the output of the workshop? And how will the team use this output further on? So if you have clarity of these, then you have quite a comprehensive briefing, and then you can effectively design a workshop. So you can also capture relevant information on a canvas like this. For example, you can say, what's the snapshot, or what are all the facts that we know about the workshop? Primary expectations. So what are the main things that the team wants to get out of this workshop? When is the team happy? Secondary expectations. What other things might they want but are not necessarily saying like explicitly? So something that you maybe want to keep in mind. Delivery assets. And delivery assets, what I mean is like what is specifically needs to be produced or needs to be tangible once the workshop is finished. So is it, for example, a list? Is it a backlog? Is it a prototype? Is it whatever, what have you? And key players, who are the key players? So who is joining and what are their motivations? Red flags. What kind of issues are you already sensing or noticing that you think, oh, this might be causing some trouble during the workshop? And anything else, of course, that you need to know or consider. Now, once you have the challenge and the desired output clear, these two sort of ends, now you want to reverse engineer how to structure your session, which exercise can take the team step by step towards your end goal. And we have an app for that. We have a framework. So it's called the 4Cs framework. And this framework helps you break down the workshop into exercises that have actually different purposes, but at the same time are connected to each other and use the output of, one exercise uses the output of the previous exercise in order to achieve something different to add to it. So these 4 Cs are the following. Is because it's 4 words that begin with C. It's collect, choose, create, and commit. I'm going to explain. Just make sure you take note, wink, wink, for the quiz later on. Collect. So every workshop needs to start somewhere with a phase of information collection, whether it's ideas, challenges, inspiration, what have you. So, and it's a good idea to start with a collect kind of exercise, because you also trigger the people to get into these workshop modes, just to generate a lot of ideas or a lot of thoughts and put them out there. An example, you can start with collecting positives and negatives about a specific situation. Imagine you're doing a project retrospective or analyzing a project, how it went, how the team felt. So maybe you collect in green stickies, because it's always very handy to color code everything that's positive, everything that's moving your team forward. And then in red or pink stickies, everything that's holding your team back. So as you can see here, we have on parallel two exercises that are about collecting some ideas or some input. Next, once you have enough content collected, it's time for you to choose for you and the group to choose where you want to focus on. So, and by focus, I mean focus the rest of the session, and also what to exclude, what to ignore. And the handy thing is that even the parts that you want to ignore, you have documentation of those ideas, so you can maybe later get to them in another session. So what you choose will be the focus of the workshop that maybe you want to create solutions for. So make very visually clear to everyone what you decide to choose. So I'm going to give you an example. So imagine now we are focusing on all the negatives of our project, everything that was a problem or a challenge, and then you give people like stickers, like dots, sticky dots, to vote, and then people can vote, and then you say, okay, this sticky has actually majority of the votes, so that means that this is the most important issue that we need to solve, so that the next project we don't run into the same kind of problem. Okay, so then this is how you choose. Voting is one way of choosing. There are many other exercises you can do for choosing. Once the team is on the same page regarding the scope of the workshop, so the choosing part, now you can create solutions for that area. So solutions at this stage don't need to be final. It's about just creating and ideating a mass of solutions just to have them, again, visualized for everyone. And this is, again, a fun part where people can have, can really find it nice to just ideate and create and put things out there. It doesn't matter if they don't have to be final, or they don't even have to be good ideas. It's just about producing a mass of solutions. And then, for example, you said this is the problem, and what are the possible solutions that we could implement so that we avoid running into this again for our next project, right? And then people, again, in a different color, in this case blue, you can say, okay, blue is for ideas, how to solve this challenge. And then you want to commit. So then you want to bring them back again into a converging mindset. And here you want to commit because a workshop is not so valuable without, like we said, without a decision or with an actionable plan or an actionable commitment, if you will. So here's where you want to get granular and specific. So, okay, out of all these ideas, and I'm going to the previous slide, out of all these ideas, what are we going to do? Who's going to do it? How long will it take? When will we meet to follow up on it, etc.? So an example here to commit would be to now you have them in the example that I just gave you, vote again for what are the best solutions, the solutions that you like most. And then, for example, you can use this matrix with impact and effort. So you can have, measuring, okay, this solution, actually how much of an investment is it in time and effort? And actually how much impact does it actually have? So you can go a little bit on a deeper level to really challenge the solutions to make sure that you are choosing the best possible solutions. And in whatever criteria you use, this is just a very, very commonly used one, impact effort matrix, but whatever criteria you use that makes sense for the team, you want to make sure that you are choosing the right things to begin with. And another thing is, this is how it would look. For example, a simple workshop, as I just gave you the example, but this does not necessarily have to be a linear process. You can actually have different streams for each C. So I showed you at the beginning, you can collect negatives and positives. So that would be 2 collects. But then you only decide to choose the negatives because maybe you don't need to do anything specific with the positive, so you need to process them. But this is doesn't need to be linear. So you can really have different streams, and you can have, collect, choose, and then again collect, choose. It really depends on the goal of your workshop. So you can play with this. This is just a framework to trigger you a bit to analyze, okay, what kind of exercises do we need to have in order to get to our desired outcome. And now probably you're wondering, what do you even mean with workshop exercises? How do I even invent them, or how do I know that they will work or that they will be easy for people? Well, don't worry. An exercise is just an activity that is planned, structured, and has a specific result in mind. For example, on the left here, I would tell the group, okay, we have a challenge. Now, please write one idea per sticky note on how you think this challenge could be solved. Just write as many as you like and put them on the whiteboard when you're done. Another exercise would be then, let's classify the ideas in this matrix based on how much impact they have on solving the problem and how much of an effort it would actually be, or an investment to implement said solution. So as you can see, it really depends. These are just two examples that are very popular. But how do you know what exercises to include in your workshop? So there's no science here. So the only way to do this is just to experiment with a lot of exercises and to just see how they work for you and for specific purposes. But online, you can find many resources and inspirations. So you can have books. You also have the card decks that have a lot of, every card is one exercise, and they are classified in topics similar to this forces framework. You can use Legos. You can use, for example, the liberating structures. It's a specific methodology. You can go to any kind of libraries. For example, Session Lab has also a very interesting library of exercises. And eventually you will feel confident, because initially you can just replicate these recipes, but eventually you will be confident to adapt them and to even invent your own. So that's how it goes. And then there's no universal library of the whole world's compilation of exercises for workshops. That's impossible, because you can invent new ones every day. And it's not limited. The sky's the limit. So that's all for me from my side regarding workshops. I just want to close my presentation by talking to you briefly about NextView. So NextView is the leading European boutique Salesforce partner. We are an independent partner founded in 2009, one of the fastest growing ones in Europe. We actually are now expanding into new countries. For now, we have offices in the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, Poland, Czech Republic, Sweden, and furthermore, we're still growing. Yeah, and what also I can tell you about NextView is that we have a very wide array of expertise, but we want to also focus it on different industries. And well, we also have a unique decided approach. That means that we really want to look into making sure that we are solving the right problems before we even start talking about technology or implementing specific features. We first want to understand our customers' businesses, their processes, and make sure that our solutions are really supporting them. And this can be also outside the scope of Salesforce. So Salesforce is obviously our focus, but we also advise them in general about how to improve their processes. And well, we also are very proud that NextView is very focused on purpose. So we have a few initiatives there that I'm not going to list right now, but you can learn about in our website. So in order to give back a little bit to the community. So that's all from my side. And now it's time for our quiz. Make sure you participate because there's a chance that you will win some nice prizes, but also even if you don't win the prizes, you will still get a freebie from us. So we have prepared for you a workshop preparation guide. So when you want to start organizing your own sessions, you can go through the guide. It has a few of the points that we've learned today, but it has also a few additional ones, specific, very handy checklists, like don't forget to prepare these, don't forget to prepare that. So yeah, just participate. And in terms of the prizes, if you paid attention, let me see, you have, in a moment, we will share in the next slide, the QR code that will take you to our quiz. And the host will also share in the comments a link for you to click on. But before I do that, let me introduce you very quickly the rules. So you will be required to complete a Google form with your details. So make sure that you type them correctly so we can make sure that we can contact you via email in case you are a winner of one of the prizes. Then you'll be asked to answer 3 simple questions, and you will have to choose one correct answer from the list. There's only one correct answer, right? So you can only select one answer. And the first 3 contestants to answer all 3 questions correctly will win one of our prizes. As you can see, they're very cool. The first place, the winner of the quiz, will have a voucher for a 60-minute sim racing experience. The second place will have a 150 Polish zloty voucher to use on a popular experience website. You can choose from 1,000 activities across all Poland. And the third prize is a 100 Polish zloty voucher to use on the same experience website. Okay, so are you ready? 1, 2, and 3. So here is the QR code. Please scan it, and it will take you to your quiz. You can use also the link, which I believe should now be available in the comment section. And remember, the first 3 contestants to answer all 3 questions correctly will win one of our prizes. And everyone else who is not a winner will still receive this free workshop preparation guide. So I won't be announcing the winners here, but my colleague Philip will be contacting you if you're a winner via email. So make sure you keep an eye on the inbox and make sure to fill in your details correctly in case you're a winner. And good luck to everyone. And thank you so much for participating in this quiz. My colleagues will be running another presentation tomorrow at 10 a.m. if you would like to have another chance to win these prizes. So please make sure you join the presentation tomorrow. So I'm just gonna wait for Dorota to tell me when we can move on to the Q&A session.
Yeah, so I'm joining you, and I think our viewers had some time to scan the QR code. And also, as you said, the link to the quiz is also in the comments section, both on Facebook and on YouTube. So please copy that link and enter the quiz to win those cool prizes that you were just informed about. And I think we can go to the Q&A session right now because we have some questions from our viewers. So I would like to show them to you on our screen. So maybe we can start with this one because this was the first one that got to our mailbox. Would you agree that there is a limit of participants up to which the workshops are productive, and exceeding that number makes it hard to make workshops useful for all parties?
Yes, and that's a very good question. And yes, there's a limit. So usually we aim for especially if you're only starting to facilitate and to organize a workshop, you want to have a group that is not larger than 10, because after 8 or 10 people, it can really get messy. However, in real life, so that's the theory and that's the ideal scenario. However, in real life, that's very hard to control. Sometimes a group of stakeholders actually is bigger. What you can do in this case is to, especially if you plan to maybe have some exercises done in breakout groups, whether that's online or in person, what you can do is have a co-facilitator. So you can have someone else to support you so that you don't feel like you have to go quickly to one group and then to the other group. Then you can have support for everyone in the group. So that's definitely a great question.
Another one, do you think any meeting can be run as workshops, or are there any exceptions?
That's another great question. So we don't need to run all the meetings as workshops. For example, if the sole purpose of the gathering is to exchange information, for example, a daily stand-up or an update for an all-hands meeting in a company, or a team meeting that it doesn't necessarily have a specific outcome in mind, it's just to catch up with each other or to maybe run through a backlog of projects and to update on the status of things, then definitely you don't need to make it complicated. You can just keep the normal meeting experience. The other case where you might not necessarily need a very sophisticated workshop is if you, for example, are doing some interviews to understand a matter in more depth. So if you just want to get insights and information out of someone, whether it's a group or an individual, then you can do it as a workshop if you want to have a little bit of a more interactive experience, but not necessarily. You can also just go with a traditional, focus group or in-depth interview So there's definitely, you don't need to have everything as a workshop. A workshop is really, you want to have a workshop when you feel a little bit that like the team could use help in getting aligned and sort of, led through a structured process through an outputs, and that if you see that there's a risk that the team can get derailed and the topic is a little bit tricky, then it's a good idea to have a workshop.
Okay, and we also have some questions that I think are part of kind of a bigger discussion that we've also had before we started this presentation about the value of meeting people online and meeting people in person, because we have two questions that I think are pretty similar. This is the one: are in-person workshops better than virtual workshops? And also this one: hi, do you agree that workshops are more effective than when run on site?
These are amazing questions. Actually, it's a bit of that's a great question. So, okay. No, in the sense that if you have an effective workshop structure design, and you are also capable of facilitating a session effectively, it shouldn't matter whether you're doing it online or on site, like in person, in a physical space together. Both, in terms of effectiveness, both should actually, a good facilitator will actually bring you to the same quality of result, whether you are on a Google Meet call, Teams, whatever, or in a physical space. However, having one and another actually does have advantages. Let me briefly explain. An on-site workshop is actually very, very good to, it's a very pleasant experience in terms of human energy. So you usually get a lot of energy from the group that is very hard to replicate in through a screen when you are everyone's sitting in a different space. So definitely that's one advantage. You can also end the session, for example, start a session with a breakfast if it's a whole day session, or end it with some drinks. So there's also these social moments that you are definitely missing on the virtual space. On the other hand, of course, online workshops have the challenge that managing the energy is tricky. So, for example, if you really need 8 hours for a session to tackle a specific set of topics, maybe you don't want to do it in the same day. Maybe you want to split it into 2 days so that people don't actually have to sit in front of the screen for 8 hours. So maybe you want to split it, in 2 or 3 across 2 or 3 days. So there's definitely logistical things that you need to keep in mind. But technically, the workshop design and an effective facilitation style should lead you to the same quality of workshop workshop and workshop experience and result. But of course, it has its nuances.
Sure. And then I think this is the last question so far. So if any of you guys have any questions left, please leave them in the comments right now, because this is the one that we still have to answer. Do I need to be an expert in the topic the team is working on to be an effective facilitator and to have a successful workshop?
That's another very good question. And the answer is, in general, you don't. So if we just look at the strict definition of facilitation, which is taking the group through a process towards an outcome, then no, because the expertise that the facilitator needs to have is related to the group dynamics and to the actual exercises of the workshop, and how to even course correct live if something goes wrong, right? Of course, you need to have certain understanding about what the team wants to do. So in that case, sure, you probably if you're a facilitator and you understand a little bit about the business or a little bit about the industry, but that's something also that you can, as a facilitator, do your homework on when you have a new client and they are presenting to you their challenges. So that's definitely something you can also do. But so technically, no, you don't have to be an expert. So for example, if you're running a workshop to look at the development of a new app or design of a new app, you don't necessarily need to be a designer. So definitely not. You want to have certain understanding of what the team is trying to accomplish, yes. However, there are some, for example, in my role, in my case, the facilitation that we do as a service designer does involve the need to not only do the structure of the session and also the group dynamics, but actually involve to process content that we are generating with the customer that can be also sometimes a little bit technical, and with the help, of course, of technical people. So we are also doing that exercise a little bit live. But originally, we actually, in the community of facilitators, we like to say that we are the guides, but not the heroes. But in certain roles, such as mine, sometimes you have to bend that rule a little bit, and you also have to be the guide and the hero, because for example, customers also expect us to come up with ideas or be part of the solution. And strictly, the original definition of facilitator would say that's not the case, or that shouldn't be the case. So it really depends. Technically, no, it could be in some cases. And if you really are needed more as an expert, then it's better to ask someone else to facilitate, so you can really focus on your topic.
Great. Okay. And this, I think, was the last question that we have here in the comments, which is okay, because this is also all the time that we have for this Q&A session, but some good feedback is on the way. Helen is saying, thanks a lot for this inspiring presentation. Thank you so much, Cecilia, for joining us here and sharing your thoughts, sharing your knowledge and perspective. But guys, if you have any other questions, or you just want to talk to Cecilia about how it is working for NextView, please join her on this virtual stand that NextView has. Just let me give you the link to it, live.s4summit.pl/nextview. This is the address that you need to enter to talk to Cecilia. She'll be joining you out there at 5:30. You can also submit your resume. You can check out their job offers and see how it is working for NextView. So Cecilia, once again, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your knowledge.
Thank you so much. It's been fun.
Thank you so much, and we hope to see you again during another S4 Summit. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.